What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of interAXEtion. And on this episode of interAXEtion, we are going to talk about learning music theory, playing over chord changes, and writing and composing chord progressions and riffs. How's everybody doing this week? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Again, the questions that are coming are really good. I see you guys answering each other's questions, which I love. I love the commentary. I love the community that's beginning to develop here. So let's not waste a lot of time and let's jump into them. We got some good questions. Question number one: what kind of theory should every guitarist know in order to improvise over any given chord changes, coming up with cool sounding licks? Perhaps you can make music theory lessons starting from beginner and going into advanced. That's a really good question, and it's going to segue into another question too, the next question. But what theory do you need to know to play over chord changes? Well, you should have an idea of what chords are being played. You should have an idea of what those chords are made up of, with the notes that comprise each one of those chords. If you're playing over an A minor to a G chord, you should know the notes of each of those chords. And lastly, you should know where those notes are on the fretboard. And that's the most important thing, because there's a really big difference between playing licks over a riff or an idea and then playing a melodic solo and melodic ideas through chord changes. Because a lot of times, especially you come from a rock metal world, a lot of times you're playing licks on top of riffs. You're not necessarily composing a melody that travels through the chords. And that's a really big difference, right? So I come from a rock metal background, so for me, just throwing ideas on top of things, that's not too bad. We could all compose a nice solo doing that. But to throw on a chord progression or a jazz progression or anything like that, even a blues progression, being able to compose a melodic idea, a melodic statement that goes through the entire progression rather than just churning out pentatonic licks over everything. It's a big difference. So a really important step is knowing your fretboard and being able to visualize your fretboard. Because if you don't know where the notes are on the fretboard, you're going to have a hard time finding the notes that help you play through chord changes and not on top, right? So learn the notes that are in the chords, learn where those notes are on the fretboard, and then from there you can start adding to things like that, to things that will help those, will expand that knowledge, right? Intervals, keys, scales, modes, stuff like that. Cool? Great question. Question number two. Hey, I have a question about learning music theory. Some very inspirational musicians for me, like Steven Wilson and Rodrigo E. Gabriela, which are fantastic, claim that they don't know much music theory, not even basic chords. P.S. I don't buy that for a second. But they are still able to create great and creative music. Bands like Dream Theater, who are probably musical masterminds, strike me as they would create music very analytically, meaning they would come up with an idea first, combining a certain mode or polyrhythm or time signature, stick with it, and then whatever comes out, comes out. The band mentioned above strike me as they would express themselves not necessarily worrying about the musical tools they're using, and I'm kind of stuck at the beginning learning all scales and modes and all these special chords, but I still want to learn music theory because it interests me and I find it very helpful. How can I approach learning music theory, or what kind of stuff should I learn, not learn, so I don't get spoiled or overwhelmed by the theory? That's a really good question, and you see this debate going on a long time, right? You see all the people that know their music theory, and then all the people who don't know their music theory. Oh, it kills my creativity, and I just want to pick up my guitar and play whatever comes out of me. I do not think these two things are related. Now, obviously, if you have no musical background, no clue what chords are going on, you learn guitar on your own, you're going to be creative in your own voice, and that's fantastic. But music theory is just a description, right? They don't tell you how to play, they don't tell you what to play. It's just things that describe a language, and music is a language. You can equate it to chemistry. You don't need to know that water is 2-part hydrogen, 1-part oxygen to drink it and cook with it, right? And enjoy its substance, right? You don't need to know that. But again, music theory is just a description. It's a way to describe what's going on in music. Yes, there are rules, but those rules always tend to come with like forms and tradition. right? None of us are writing music in sonata form, so we don't have to abide by those rules, you know? So don't change those two things, right? If you're going to be a session musician, right? You want to be a studio guitar player, well, you're going to have to know some theory because you won't be able to communicate with those other musicians. You're not going to speak their language. That doesn't mean that they write using music theory. And to use your thing, when you talk about Dream Theater, I'm sure that John Petrucci picks up the guitar and writes whatever comes out and what he wants to write. Okay, he has an expansive musical training, so obviously his palette to choose from is a lot larger from somebody who doesn't. Okay, but that doesn't mean he's going to go, I'm going to write in 5/4 and all these crazy theaters and meters and use polyrhythms, and then whatever I write to fit that is going to fit that. I don't think they do that. You know, that's not very expressive. Those are good training exercises to do. So if you're learning a polyrhythm or using multiple time signatures, do that. Limit yourself. So, okay, I'm going to write in 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, 5/8. I'm going to make something fit in there. That's a good training exercise, because if you don't know how to, if you've never played something that changes meter, or if you've never played a polyrhythm, chances are really small that something amazing is going to come out randomly and fit that. Or I'm randomly using some crazy meter, right? You have to learn the language, the description, and then you learn how to express yourself doing that. Right? You see that a lot of rock players have a hard time using, say, melodic minor and all those augmented chords. Why? Because it's not in the music we play, right? It's not in Led Zeppelin. It's not in Metallica. So we're not verse in expressing ourselves like that. But we can shred the shit out of the pentatonic scale, right? Because all the music we digest uses it, right? So if you're unfamiliar with something, you're not going to express yourself with it. So you have to open yourself up and listen to different styles of music, learn how to create different sounds. So when it comes to learning different aspects of theory and chords and all that kind of stuff, if you're not playing jazz or anything like that, don't feel like you have to take it all in, all right? Try to listen to a bunch of different things. Whatever you think sounds good, learn how to play it. Then learn what it is, and then learn how to recreate it, and then learn how to express yourself with it. All right? So cool. I hope that answers your question. That's a really good one, and I see that debate all the time. All right? Next question. I have a question regarding the order of chords and riffs. How do you tend to work usually? Build a chord progression and then compose riffs over that, or construct a riff, then see how you can build a chord progression around it? I know there is no right way, but I'm just curious about your approach. On a related note, for all my songs consist of riffs. I don't have chord progressions for any of them. Can you see this becoming a limitation of any kind further down the line? That's a really great question, and we had a nice conversation going on in the comment section, but I wanted to address that and talk about this in the video, right? My approach is I just come up with stuff. You know, if I'm writing riffs and riffs and chord progression, it's going to be slaves to the format of the song, right? So whatever the song needs. If I'm writing a chorus section, I'm probably going to use more chords than I am static riffs, right? And vice versa. If I'm writing an intro to a song, I might not be, elaborate chord progression, all right? But if I'm writing a breakdown section, maybe I'm doing elaborate chord progressions. And so I let the song, what the song needs, and where I am in the section of the song determine whether it's a riff or a chord progression, stuff like that. And obviously, if I'm writing a song, I have a chord progression. If I'm writing a song, I'm going to steal from that, right? I'm like, oh, I'm playing this chord progression, so let me write some riffs that use the harmony of the chord progression, that use the elements of the chord progression. And how can I turn that into a riff? Or how can I turn this riff into a chord progression? Vice versa, kind of break it down like that. So again, that's no right way, but I would do that, whatever the song needs, whatever the section, whatever you're hearing in your head, right? If you just have a song of just riffs, that could be limiting to your question, right? Because then this song might not have the substance you are looking for. And then all the listener here is riff A, riff B, riff C, riff D, the song's over, right? There's nothing to grab onto. There's no repeating factor out of that. So again, it all boils down to how you're writing and what you're writing. But I would definitely try to mix in chord progressions and riffs, right? That's how the best songs are composed. Right? Great question. Keep it coming. And that does it for this week, guys. So leave your questions and comments below. And as always, let me know what you come up with. And I will see you next time. Thanks a lot.